Welcome back to PPCM's Painful Truth. Today's guest, Melinda Dodson.
So Melinda, thank you so much. I mean, just making time today and giving me your time and helping.
Thank you for doing this series. I mean, it's desperately needed, obviously. So
yeah, that's why I'm like, it's up to us to show up and to educate the medical community as well as individuals. And I think the more that we talk about it, I think people will believe us and start listening that we are really talking about something very painful, but something very preventable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why don't you introduce yourself and tell me where you're from and what age were you when you were diagnosed peripartum cardiomyopathy?
Okay. So my name is Melinda Dodson. I'm currently 31. I am from about 30 minutes north of Detroit, Michigan. So we're dealing with some lovely weather here.
Oh, yes, I know. My husband's family is all from Michigan. So they were saying they got dumped with snow.
Yeah, we got a big storm coming tonight, or so they say. We'll see. So I was diagnosed with peripartum cardiomyopathy about 5 months postpartum with my son in January. He was born in January of 2019, and I was diagnosed in late May of 2019. And at the time, I was 28 years old.
So when you were diagnosed, were you, did your OBGYN diagnose you? Were you diagnosed in the ER? Who was it that actually gave you the diagnosis?
So it was actually my primary care physician. I had, since about 2 weeks postpartum, been experiencing shortness of breath. I felt like there was an elephant sitting on my chest. I developed a very strange cough that was really persistent. And I had so many other things going on. I had a lot of other difficulties with my physical recovery from the birth of my son. And so kind of brushed it off to the side until it got to the point where it was really taking over and becoming more severe. And so I made an appointment with my primary care physician, and just out of sheer luck, he had experience with a woman who had been diagnosed with PPCM prior to treating me. And as soon as I told him my symptoms, and he knew that I had just given birth a few months prior, he ordered an echo right away.
So your OBGYN has PPCM awareness and...
not my OB, but my primary care physician, my family doctor.
Oh, your family doctor.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And does your OB and your primary doctor have that like that group, like where they talk and there's like a my chart and they can see, what's going on?
At the time, no.
Okay.
Yeah, at the time, no. So it was really just all from my primary care physician. He ordered the echo right away and a BNP blood test. And when both of those came back abnormal, he told me I needed to see a cardiologist as soon as possible. So then from there, I reached out to a cardiologist and began treatment with him.
Amazing. So that's what we all strive for is that it's caught at an early diagnosis and treated. Bless your primary care, he sounds like a very lovely, caring doctor, that's educated by experience and knew how to, knew the tests and knew what to do for you. Did you go back and tell your OB that your primary care doctor diagnosed you with a maternal mortality prevention disease?
Mhm.
Did you go back and tell her?
Oh, yes, I did. Yeah. So when I went back to the OB's office afterwards, after diagnosis, I did inform my OB about kind of the new developments and where I was in terms of the disease and things like that. And it was something that he had heard of before, but not something that he had any experience treating. And that actually was the case with the first cardiologist that I saw as well. And so when I was first diagnosed in the first few cardiologist visits, it really wasn't taken very seriously. It was kind of just, I want to say brushed off. It wasn't given the attention that it should have been. I was given just a very loaded basic.
That's exactly what it was. That's what it very much is. I mean,
so I was very fortunate. Right. I was very fortunate that my primary care doctor recognized it so quickly and took it so seriously. But then when I transferred my care to the cardiologist, unfortunately, it was not the case. So I went several months with kind of just being mistreated, not being taken seriously, everything being brushed off. And I had one appointment, the last appointment I had with that cardiologist, where I went into his office and had a complete breakdown and was in tears and told him, I'm afraid to be home alone with my 6-month-old son because I feel like I'm going to drop dead.
Right.
I can't breathe. I can't walk up a flight of stairs. You know, it was terrifying for me. Yes. And he really didn't have anything to say to that. Just said, okay, well, I think you'll be okay eventually. Let's just continue with this course of treatment, which was very minimal. I was on a very minimal treatment. Just one beta blocker that didn't seem to be having any effect on me whatsoever. And so at that point I said, okay, I need to find somebody who's going to treat this like it should be treated. I'm going to find somebody who is going to take this as seriously as I do. And did a lot of research. And I'm fortunate that I live relatively close to University of Michigan hospitals. And I found a cardiologist there who specializes in PPCM and
what's the name?
Dr. Melinda Davis. And
you notice how I said, what's her name?
Yes. Yes, I did.
I told, when I woke up from cardiac death and we know our bodies, and I'm a very healthy girl. I mean, I've been yoga, dancer, very active my entire life. I know what I feel like. And so when I kept making appointments with cardiologists in the same center because, I couldn't find one because they were all male. Yeah. And then one of them even said, I said, I'm in so much pain. I'm in, a lot of pain from this defibrillator. I was right. It needed to be removed. But I said, I'm in a lot of pain. I think I have a blood clot. And he said, oh, blood clots don't hurt. I said, well, did you ever have a blood clot? He said, no. I said, well, no clot, no say, and turned out I did. It was from here all the way up until here. And they said it was the longest blood clot that 1 out of 200 get. And I'm like, okay, I am now the poster girl for everything, lab rat of PPCM, status right here. That's how I am kind of right now in my OBGYN office.
So
now I have a woman cardiologist, Dr. Carol Watson. She's amazing. She's the head of Women's Heart Center. So when I said, oh, because this is a woman's disease, it's a young, healthy woman disease. And even if a man, it's different. There's no comparison of feeling of what we go through when we're literally got life inside of us and knowing that we're dying.
Yeah. And that was the first cardiologist that I saw that brushed everything off was a male. So finding Dr. Davis and working with her team and her expertise in the disease, she does active research in the disease. It's really something that she focuses on and something that she really advocates for, more reseresearch and more studies. She's been absolutely fantastic.
Wonderful.
I actually currently am 21 weeks pregnant with my first post PPCM baby.
Oh, wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yay.
And she's handling my care along with the high-risk OB that works in her office. They work as a team. So all of my appointments, I see both of them together.
Sure.
And I obviously was very nervous going into a second pregnancy. First of all, thinking, when you find out you have this disease and they tell you no more babies, it's off the table. And so obviously,
I've been interviewing over 200 women around the world. And so, it's interesting because some women say that they had it on the second they don't know if they had it on the first pregnancy because they weren't aware. They had it on the second pregnancy. And then on the third pregnancy, it was totally different. It was like they didn't have any symptoms, relapse, nothing. And
that's so strange how
it's been more common. Yeah, it's been more common hearing that because every pregnancy is different.
Yeah.
For me, I don't feel comfortable. I went the whole way. I was not treated. Cedars-Sinai in Beverly Hills. I had every symptom, but nobody knew to give me any tests. And so I had cardiac death and I was in a coma. So, and then I had a defibrillator and I went so far that I couldn't risk like having that again. Absolutely. But I hear so many like success stories that because every pregnancy is different, that you have to treat it as different. And now that you have the awareness, there is prevention. So I think it's really preference and how comfortable somebody feels. And you have
it's how comfortable you feel with your team of doctors that are there for you or not there for you.
Right.
And I went through extensive testing with Dr. Davis when we started kind of exploring the idea of venturing into another pregnancy and taking that on, and whether she thought that I was capable of handling it, that she and her team were capable of handling it. And if it had been something that she had said, no, I don't think it's a good idea, then I wouldn't have, because I have full trust in her and her team.
How did she treat you when you felt comfortable? What was the difference between her treatment? What's her name again? I'm so sorry.
Dr. Davis, Melinda Davis.
Dr. Melinda Davis at University of Michigan.
Yes.
What was the difference between what she did and what the cardiologist that you just felt like I need to advocate for myself? Like, what was the difference of care?
So first of all, it was just her listening. The previous cardiologist would rush me in and out of appointments. I would be there for 20 minutes and be gone. I was requesting other testing and he refused or would begrudgingly accept, and then was very slow to look at results and things like that. Dr. Davis was just on top of things. I could tell from the first appointment with her. First of all, she took almost an hour and a half with me my first appointment. And just spent the time really listening to everything that I had been through and everything that I was feeling, had a very sympathetic and empathetic attitude, and reassured me just things are going to be different from here on out. You are never going to feel like you are not being treated or you're not being listened to. And she's made good on that promise for sure. So immediately from that first appointment, we scheduled several more tests, an exercise echocardiogram or a stress echocardiogram, a cardiac MRI, other echocardiograms, follow-up appointments, things like that, and then a medication change. And honestly, within a month of seeing her, I noticed a huge change in my physical symptoms and the way that I was feeling. And then also just in my overall disposition, because I felt like, okay, we're finally going to get a handle on this.
Absolutely. And that's what's so amazing, because I mean, what my mom always said, and my dad always said my entire life is, Lindsay, because I'm from Philadelphia, University of Pennsylvania, we have Temple, we have the best hospitals, basically, I think it's like number 5 in the nation. Yeah. And people are just people. But my dad and mom always said that, nobody's the best with, lack of awareness, which now they have passed, but I can't say, but my parents always said a good doctor is not a doctor where they get a degree. A good doctor is a doctor who cares and a doctor who listens.
That's
and
so
I always knew that going into the hospitals and things. So I was hard on myself because, my family and my entire life, we go to the best hospitals, the best doctors, and I have the best insurance. And, I thought that I was also doing my job as choosing the right place to give birth at Cedars-Sinai. And when I went to both towers, I went to over, 12 doctors there in 9 months, but the visits were over, I thought it was 42, it was 32 visits in 9 months, because I kept having my baby's brain checked and his heart checked and all the tests and everything, they all came back normal.
Yeah.
And then when I came back from my times of death called in Arizona, when we were away in Thanksgiving, I coded on Thanksgiving with the baby in bed with me, and they had PPCM awareness, the Banner Hospital in Phoenix, Arizona. And they were the ones that diagnosed me when I was already pronounced dead. But when I went back to Cedars-Sinai and I said, this is very informative, educational information that is life-saving. And they were they did not want to be informed. The high risk management, nobody wanted me to talk about it. Nobody wanted, and I even said to them, I wasn't raised to sue. I would never sue. I want to raise awareness. I want to know what happened. I'm a healthy girl my entire life. Yoga, dancer, working on top TV shows for over 18 years. There's no reason for me to have had my times of death called. And they brushed me off, blew me off. They made me feel like it was my fault. And I was not evolved yet. Yeah.
So and now at that point, then it's not even about you anymore. It's about other women.
Other people. It's never about me. I already have the awareness. Right. And honestly, it's not about you. This is about changing women's health history. This is about being part of developing a movement for all women's health worth rights. Yeah. And I'm very much of a woman that believes in woman justice and woman's voice. And I empower that, because I feel like this is what the problem is that nobody's taking anyone seriously when we are at a life threat until we are seriously not well, until it's too late. And so when Leah passed away at Cedars-Sinai this past November 21st, 2021, this past November, same hospital, same doctors, same everything. And they couldn't learn from me.
Yeah.
And that's when I said, you're right. This is not about me. This is about our children when they have children. This is about my grandchildren. It's about your grandchildren. It's about your children and moving forward. Because at this point, women, there's no excuse. I always say in every video, this should be an ancient conversation because women have been giving birth since the beginning of time. They call it childbirth fever back in the 1800s. And in 2022, we call it PPCM, peripartum cardiomyopathy. And it is medically proven that there are preventions and you are living proof. Now, the fact that you have been diagnosed by your primary care doctor, not your gynecologist, and the fact that you have had such a wonderful support team in your healthcare proves to other women compared to other interviews, because you stand out right now in America. For American women, you are the only one so far that I have interviewed that in America that has been diagnosed during pregnancy. Yeah. Most women are diagnosed after they give birth, after a C-section, and in the ER.
Right. Well, so mine was 5 months postpartum was my diagnosis.
Oh, so you weren't diagnosed during pregnancy?
No.
You already gave birth?
Yes.
Oh.
I started feeling the symptoms 2 weeks postpartum. And then 5 months postpartum is when I finally said, okay, something's really wrong here. I need to get a handle on this. And that's when I went to the primary care doctor.
I forgot. Yeah. Gosh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Now I remember you said you didn't want to be alone. I had that same feeling where I didn't want to be alone with my son.
Yeah.
To the point where, John didn't want to leave, period. Mm-hmm. Because he didn't feel, and if I didn't feel it and he didn't feel it, he even got a job right on the corner of our street in West Hollywood when we lived there, because if I needed him, which I did at one time, I really did need him. It was really hard. It was really, really hard. And
it's terrifying. It's terrifying enough to be a new mom or if it's not your first pregnancy, to have a newborn and be trying to manage your children and your household and your job if you have one. That's scary enough. That's hard enough. And then to have all these symptoms.
I feel like I think that when this really pulls the rug out from underneath a woman when she's diagnosed with this, let alone if you were not caught during, at any point, being diagnosed, even at 10 weeks pregnant, made that actually happen. Mm-hmm. But it's just at this point, we are having to not only find ourselves, because now we're not a single person, we're now mommy.
Yes.
Right there, that change and that responsibility is a lot. And to have this diagnosis is whether you died or you lived or whatnot, to have the diagnosis, to say, I survived a maternal mortality or the disease, and say that we can actually live and talk about it and talk about the changes, how it would affect our lives, is the painful truth.
Absolutely.
So did you have a career? Did you go to school? Like, what was your change of where the rug was pulled out from underneath of you? Let's talk about that.
My husband and I are small business owners. We own 3 restaurants. And so I was very active.
What's the name of the restaurant?
Tropical Smoothie Cafe. We have 3 of them.
Oh, you have a smoothie cafe.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I was very active in the stores and with our teams pre-delivery of my son. Mm-hmm. And then very quickly after delivery, realized that was not possible anymore, especially with the symptoms that I was feeling from the PPCM.
Right. You couldn't stand on your feet.
No. Yeah. So So kind of transitioned to doing as much work as I can from
Right.
home. You know, when you're a business owner, there's so many things that need to be done from an office aspect and not
Right.
just a hands-on in the cafes aspect. So kind of took that over, but trying to split my time then between my newborn son and the business, and just being exhausted all the time from the condition and feeling like I couldn't do things because I didn't want to push it, because I didn't know what my limits were at that point. I didn't know if something was going to, if that was going to be the last straw, and that was what was going to kill me, or that was going to, send me to the hospital. And if I was going to be able to get there, if I did have something occur, if I were to have a heart attack, or if I were to pass out.
It's a lot of mental heavy.
It is.
And that's why when you're talking, like, now, everything that you're saying, all I can picture is that balance between the brain and the heart, because the mind can literally, I believe, heal the body, but it can also, the worry can make a body sick.
Absolutely.
So
I've always, like you said, I've always been a very active person. I was a dancer when I was younger. I
can tell.
Yeah.
Just have that. I can pick out the vibes.
Yeah.
Even you could just stand there and I'll just know, because it's
sure.
the way we stand or
just
how we carry ourselves.
A certain posture and So, so having that kind of taken away from me as well, and have that be something additional that was mental that I had to deal with, knowing, and it's difficult with PPCM, because you've got some doctors that tell you need to get more exercise, you need to try to get out there. But then in your head, you're thinking, okay, well, if I take my son out for a walk, am I going to stress my heart too much? Is it going to be too much? You don't know what your limits are, and you don't know what you should be, you don't know what's best. And so that's hard.
But and I feel like we know our bodies, and once you're recovered and you live, you can. Yeah. And our hearts are one big muscle.
Right.
And so that muscle needs to be stretched, and it needs, I was even thinking on Mondays and Fridays, I am going to have, because I've been a dancer and yoga since I've been 4 years old. I mean, I know.
Yeah, me too.
7 hours a day, 10 hours a day. So I have a routine, and it's a good breathing routine to like help you stretch and you breathe. And like, I believe in like, like you can, like one of my dance instructors, she always says, you can mold and clay your body any way you want. You can have a runner's body, you can have a dancer's body, you can have a weightlifting body. I mean, like, however you develop it. And for me, I love having a dancer's body. So, but I incorporate a ball with a bar, and yoga and the stretching, and then I do repetition. So I want to do that with survivors, because it is important to move, because what we lack now is blood circulation.
Right.
And we do this even with pregnant women in class. So it's good for, again, your body, but it's stretching is the best. And I love to stretch.
Yeah.
But
my kind of exercise hesitation was,
would your heart stop?
Yeah, that was kind of when I was first diagnosed and when I was on my way to recovery. Now that I am considered recovered, I have very much gotten back into that active lifestyle. I am a super fan of bar classes.
So I love
that's what I'm doing. And I know that those are really great for pregnancy as well, to kind of help keep your body strong and get you ready. A lot of pelvic floor work and things like that.
I would even say if I had any authority of incorporating something that should be mandatory for women, I would say get in, even if I know it's Michigan, get into an indoor pool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And right before, like, I would even say, I don't even know, like starting 31 weeks pregnant, you know, get like hand foam weights and move around, because it's less impact on your heart. It's less impact on your back, your feet. And, you know, there's a familiar similarity between you and your baby, because your baby's like swimming. You know what I'm saying? And so there is, your baby will actually love it. Plus, I think it's, you know, preparing for, you know, preparing your heart for the birthday, you know, for giving birth. And I feel like there needs to be water incorporated for women who are even a few days or even before you give birth, like walk in the shallow end with your husband, you know, like walk back and forth, you know, get prepared for that surgery, because giving birth is major surgery, whether it's vaginal or C-section. So you want to prepare your heart. And I don't know, and as much as if I'm a dancer and I love working out, I don't know if you can get that as good as the best that you can if you were in the water, because there's such less impact on the back, the kidneys, the stomach, the tension. It's more releasing the tension as opposed to feeling tension. Right. And you're moving as opposed to, you know, there's a different type of flow.
Yeah. There's still that resistance there from the water, but it's much less impact. It's much less.
And you hold those foam weights, it holds you up.
Yeah.
So you're just you're just moving around, you're moving your arms and your feet, and, you know, you're walking, you have those weights, and you're going like this with the weights in the water, you know what I'm saying? And like that, and like this, you know, and moving it around. And that way, you know, you're ready, you know, you're prepared, you know, and I don't think nobody really talks about how important maybe that could be to also help prepare for, you know, pushing.
Yeah.
On your heart, you know, so your heart isn't getting, you know, feeling that. Because your heart's a muscle, so we expand that. But I love that you work out, and that, you know, you're pushing yourself. I immediately, even with a defibrillator inside of me, because I couldn't believe it, I felt like I couldn't run away from myself any faster, because I was so angry, and I was so like, why is this inside of me? Like, how did this even happen? Like, what, you know? But so I did the opposite. I would like literally like run as fast as I could, or, you know, just like, I can do this, you know, like I'm going to push and push and push and push and push.
Right.
And
mine was much more fear and just being afraid to do anything, being afraid to live my life. I mean, I remember the first appointment with that first cardiologist. And my mother came with me, and we had done a little bit of research online on PPCM and the outcomes, and just the phrase heart failure was so scary. And so we had this meeting with the cardiologist, and at the end of the meeting, my mom looked at him and she said, so this hasn't been really clear to me, but does she have this condition? What is this considered? And he said, she is in heart failure. And then he said, okay, well, we'll set up your next appointment, and then walked out of the room. And to just kind of drop that bomb and then walk out when I am
unacceptable,
very young, and had previously been very healthy. And I have this young child at home, and my mom and I just sat there and sobbed. And I mean, it was unbelievable that it was such a nonchalant thing for him. And I understand that maybe for him, it is a nonchalant thing because he deals with heart failure all the time. But you need to have that empathy and that understanding for your patients where this changes everything. This changes every aspect of your life and your family's lives and your children's lives. And it was devastating. It was just so shocking. And I felt very alone. And immediately from that point on, until I found Dr. Davis and my treatment changed and the attention to my condition changed, I was in a constant state of fear. I was afraid to wake up in the morning. I was afraid to go to bed at night. I was afraid to do anything.
I do remember for a while I would look over at John and I'd be like, am I gonna live?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like wondering like as if he knew, you know.
Yeah,
but
right.
like I said it a few times, and this is a very fearful, scary, vulnerable position to be in as a new mom.
Yeah.
And, you know, I felt all of that, you know, and I got angry and I wanted to like be like, no, I can overcome this, you know, I can, you know, get through this somehow. And then I realized that I would have to self-advocate every day of my life and realize that, you know, people don't know. And
it's a whole mindset change that you have to go through, really. It's the acceptance of the disease and the fact that you were impacted by it and that you had to deal with it. It's the heaviness of understanding that you are one of the survivors. And even though we go through horrible, terrible things with our experience with the diseases, we are lucky because we were able to come out the other side, and we have the opportunity to try to educate other people about it because it didn't take us. And
that's why I you know, I hear everybody. I sit back sometimes and I just observe. I love being like, you know, like a sociological observer.
Yeah.
And I hear the women on the group sites, and it's like, they're terrified and no one's listening.
Yeah.
And then they'll post and no one, and it's like, unless it's not joyful, people are really not. And I do feel responsible.
Don't get invested.
No, they don't until it affects them. And I do feel like I did live. I came back from cardiac death. I'm a healthy girl. You know, before pregnancy, this happened to me. It changed me. It changed my life. I still feel like I'm not listened to. I have to like demand to be listened to.
Yeah.
Even after, you know, and it's frustrating. And so I felt like unless there's a real platform that can provide some sort of voice, realizing that each woman that talks and each woman that it talks about what they've been through with this disease really does add a piece to the PPCM puzzle together.
It does.
Because we are the study. And I hear it. I mean, I'm not just going macro, I'm going micro, you know, I'm talking one-on-one. But I'm also taking, you know, the leadership on a broader scale because I feel like it's just not provided. Right. I mean, and I'm frustrated. And so just like you are, just like every woman, and I feel like we've suffered enough, you know, as women, all women, to not be listened to and, you know, and not be taking our symptoms seriously. And for him to have just dropped the bomb on you and your mother like that, it's very insensitive. It's not just desensitized, it's lack of humanity.
Yes.
Because you're a new mom, and how dare, who is this person? What is his name? I mean, what is
Dr. Barbish.
Barbish?
Barbish works out of Clinton Township, Michigan. Yeah. And the sad thing about that too was he was recommended to me by a close family friend. And so I felt like it should have been somebody that I was able to put my trust in and somebody that would take
Absolutely.
me seriously. Mm-hmm. And so I went into that appointment
hopeful.
Yes. Yeah. Hopeful and thinking that, okay, we're going to get a handle on this. And I at that point,
then it was that much more devastating.
It really was. It really was. I mean, that meeting was so life-changing for me and for my mother. And, coming home and seeing my husband and having to tell my husband what had just happened to me. Right. And just the recovery from not just the condition, but that feeling itself, it just made things so much harder than they needed to be when I was already going through a horrible time.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, but finding the right team and finding Dr. Davis and, having her take everything so seriously and having her give me the hope that going through this pregnancy, everything's going to be different. I am going to be listened to. I am going to have, have the support behind me that I need to get through it because I'm scared yet again.
But you should be really proud of yourself for the way that you have self-advocated because, which shows a lot that you do know your body and you're like, wait a minute, and when somebody tells you, a completely different response than you want, you're like, no, I'm gonna go this way. So it's like, you're not easily persuaded just because they're a medical professional. Like you are like, I know this just felt so wrong.
Yes.
And as our moms, my mom has always said, is like, when you feel something, usually it's because your feelings are right, or you wouldn't be feeling that.
Yeah. You have to trust your gut. I mean, I don't think women pay enough attention to that. When something is really wrong. Right. And it's unfortunate that it is then up to us to advocate for ourselves. And it's terrible and terrifying that you may have to go to many different doctors and many different appointments to find somebody that will finally listen to you and pay attention to you. But it's worth it. Because once you do find that doctor that will take you seriously and that you can trust, it changes your whole life. It makes everything so different. And it makes things a lot easier.
Yeah. So. And it should be mandatory. Things that can save lives need to be mandatory, like the BNP for all pregnancies and the EKG, since that's what has been
such a simple thing. There is no reason why, how many vials of blood they draw from you when you're pregnant. Right. There's no reason why that can't just be something else that they add to the list.
Right. And there's no reason why, once we already have this information, that it is the only diagnosis that we have available in America. Mm-hmm. Because there are other diagnoses that are available, but for some reason they're not provided and we can't get the instrument and kits. But, if this is what we have to rely on in cardiology and self-advocacy, and, there's not going to be very much support and change, we have to ask ourselves why. We also have to ask ourselves why. And I love the American Heart Association, but why is it that they have known this for over 20 years? And there are women that I'm interviewing that have been recovered for over 30 years, and women that are 23 years old that I'm interviewing as young as even 18, that are saying the exact same thing that women are saying that happened to them 30 years ago, which shows that there has been zero advocacy, zero treatment, zero care with women's heart health
Yeah.
but they have known this for over 20 years, then why hasn't there been anything done? Why are we hearing the exact same story of women that had this 30 years ago, the exact same words that are coming out to women today in 2022? I mean, that just shows you right there, they have not used their voice. They have not advocated for women's hearts. They're trying to play catch up, which I think, great, catch up already. Make this mandatory.
It's a little too late at this point, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I'm on Zoom calls with doctors that are telling me that that's just not, it's uncommon, I said, no, with labor and delivery, I said, no, sir, I'm educating all labor and deliveries all over the United States of America. It's not just one hospital. It's not uncommon. What's uncommon is for the medical community to be able to be educated and to listen. And then once they're informed, to actually apply it. And we are the study. They should be I said, you should be asking me tons of questions. Absolutely. I'm out there. I said, you shouldn't be saying no when I'm telling you, you're wrong, sir. I don't know who you are, Dr. Hill from Florida at a hospital in the ER. And I think that you're an amazing doctor, but you don't know. And that's why you need to listen to women. Again, other survivors were part of this Zoom call. They felt like they were in an office, and once again, doctors had the floor.
Yeah.
So I started volunteering to the point where I'm like, no. And they didn't want to hear from me. Why? Because I had a voice to say exactly what's going on, and they needed to listen. And we are the study. And so it's called, practice. Medicine is practice.
Yeah. So that's one of the things I believe wholeheartedly in. I mean, I think there are many, many doctors, especially in America, where just being a doctor creates this inflated ego, and they think, okay, once I have that degree, then
1,000,000,000%.
I don't need to learn anymore. I don't need to consider the fact that some things are changing and some things need to be changed. It is so important for doctors to listen and to want to know more and to understand that medicine is an evolving science. It's always changing.
And there was a lot of people on that call. There was a lot of medical professionals on that call. And I said, I'm really, I'm sorry, survivors. I didn't mean medical. There was more survivors on that call than the medical community. And I said, I'm really confused why we are having this Zoom call, because you're educating us on something that we're already educating the medical community. Why? Because we lived it.
Yeah.
We suffered, died, came back, and we lived it. So you're trying to educate survivors about PPCM. I said, wrong audience.
Right.
We need to start educating you further. Why? Yeah. Because as a study, one doctor said, you can't use, or some information is not updated. And I'm like,
then update
Guess what? There will always, every day with this disease, may there always be an update. The updates are endless. Because why? Because this is a study and we are studying it. And we only know what we know today, when tomorrow we can learn that the SFLT1, which is the toxic fluid and the placental growth factor of the test of the PIGF, can actually come together and be an actual kit and instrument in gynecology. But nobody's ever known that. Why? Because you're not talking. You're not, you don't know what the mutation genes are. There's
no desire to learn more once you've reached a certain point for many doctors. And that's the problem. Dr. Davis, my current cardiologist, is very involved in doing more research and performing more studies and, advocating for women with PPCM. And I just feel so lucky and so fortunate to have found her and to be close enough to her where she can handle my care. And That's just, every doctor needs to be like that. It shouldn't be that we have to go through horrible things and go to extreme lengths to find the very few doctors that exist in this country or in the world that have that mindset, that they want to learn more, that they want to make change. You can't settle as a doctor. You have to always want to make things better for your patients. That's, I think, the number one, should be the number one goal of patient treatment, is just wanting to create a better environment for your patients. And it's just something that's so lacking and is so sad. Oh, I lost you. I can't hear you anymore.
Sorry, my earbud died.
Okay, no.
So it's not just lacking, it's just not following through once the information is provided. That's what's most disturbing to me, is that practice, the policy of practice in medicine is not being applied once educated. And the fact that big associations have been aware of this for many decades, and they're saying, oh, we've known about this. Mm-hmm. It's almost like admitting to your own crime. Right. And I don't, when people, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because there's such a prevention. Mm-hmm. And it's heartbreaking to hear that the big associations have known that the BNP test is the early diagnosis for cancer, and that we don't need to have that if we're diagnosed earlier with the NT-proBNP, which can rule out either the heart or cancer. And with heart failure does come cancer. So it's like, you have to be on your BNP. Knowing that your B type, your brain natriuretic peptide test, is the most important number that any woman needs to follow up on for the rest of her life, especially after giving birth. Yeah. Do you know what your number is today?
Right now it's 13.
Beautiful. What's your EF?
My EF right now is 56. And I actually don't know, because it took so long for me to go to the doctor and to get an official diagnosis and to get an echo. I actually don't know what my EF was, when it was at its worst. The first echo that I had, which was 5 months postpartum or 6 months postpartum, I was at a 43. Mm-hmm. So I know it had probably recovered at least a bit by the time I had that first echo. So I don't know.
Make sure you get to see the size. Make sure you see the size of your heart. You want to see it. Do you get to see your heart?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I
did have pretty significant enlargement when I was first diagnosed. And now it's much more normalized.
Oh, you're a blessing and miracle all around. And I'm sure you're just like me. You're just meant to be here, and you're going to live a very long life. And don't let fear, this is a very fearful disease. It is.
Shouldn't be. It is.
But it's almost as if, though, we have to remember that our minds are just as powerful, and we can overcome the disease by believing mentally that we can overcome this, that this is not going to take, this is changed us, but it's not going to define us. We're just the chosen ones to speak up and to change history for all women.
Yeah. And I think that's part of what it is that obviously this is kind of a random selection of women that are given this diagnosis and given this struggle. And we are given this because we can handle it and we can take it on. And if we are so lucky to recover and survive, it is our job to try to educate other people, try to educate other women, try to educate doctors in the medical community.
Absolutely. That's exactly how I feel. I feel responsible. And I I said I feel responsible for all women because they're not aware, but I am. And
Yeah.
and as women, you know, we want other women to rise and to be healthy and to stay, you know, ahead of the times, not be still living like we're in the 1400s.
Yeah.
And so thank
For me,
goodness for Zoom and like social media.
right.
So we can talk about this now. Whereas women, you know, we were defeated like back in you know, even in the 1990s because we didn't have this.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a welcome burden for me because it is a burden to feel like you have to be the one to go out there and advocate for not only yourself, but other women. But it's something that I want to do. It's something that I feel so strongly about because I have the experience and I have the knowledge to be able to do that. And I, as difficult as that is to be shot down and be ignored time and time again, or be told that it's not that important, that just needs to drive you more and motivate you more to.
It does. Yeah. Well, what motivated me was just that I was trying to get like a hysterectomy or something because, you know, I have so many complications and I can't get pregnant and I'm scared to get a hysterectomy. But it's like I'm left to just like solely like advocate for myself. Like I don't know what to do, you know, and unfortunately, you know, PPCM takes the whole family down. My mom passed away 4 months after my heart procedure. And then my dad died 18 months after. And it's like, you know, and they were young, you know, not like stress can kill you, you know? I mean, my mom was my best friend and, you know, I mean, it's like, it's really hard. And like, as women, it's like for us to, you know, I said to my mom, if I live, I am going to start a nonprofit. I am going to spread the awareness and I am going to do everything that makes it possible. So I even on my website, I have downloadable flyers and I would just walk and every time I go to the hospital, I always keep a bunch. Sorry, heart failure, not COVID.
You're fine.
I always do it.
I understand.
Every time I go to the hospital, I have a packet of flyers. I'm giving the receptionist. I'm giving the woman who's pregnant sitting there. I'm giving like I even one time I had tape in my bag and I started taping them up in the bathrooms.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that you have to go to those lengths because it is so ignored or so unknown.
But again, we feel it's changed us. I feel responsible. I've turned down shows left and right. You know, I work as a location manager for TV shows. I work like top TV shows. I've been doing it for over 18 years and I love what I do. But like I have taken a beat because, you know, nobody's paying me to do this. You know, I'm not being paid. Nobody even donates. You know, I am the one that is supporting others, survivors, this platform, this nonprofit, as well as, you know, my husband, John. It's because we feel responsible.
Absolutely.
And we, as a survivor, it's almost like we are obligated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even when I don't feel like it, I'm like, oh, I feel obligated. But you know what? I don't at the same time because I'm like, I know that whether it's this interview, another interview, it will save somebody's life. Somebody will actually listen. Like, even if it is rare, like rare for doctors to have awareness, rare for women to have diagnosis during pregnancy, rare for, you know, women to be listened to. Maybe this will be, you know, rare where the rarity of women will listen, because it's not rare. It's very common. And that's what we're trying to show proof of, that it's not rare. It's just rare for anybody to have awareness, and rare for diagnosis.
Yes. And you have to tell as many people as possible, because you never know which person is going to be the right person, which person is going to be the person to actually be able to make a change and actually be able to save somebody's life or make a change within the medical community. So you have to get the word out there to as many people as possible, as many people as you can get to listen to just.
Yeah. I mean, I was on Kevin Hart's show. I was working that, called What the Fit, on YouTube. It's funny. If you want a good laugh, watch it.
I love him. Yeah.
I know. He's hysterical. I literally gave every single person in production, as well as and we had 13 celebrities that would come every day, new celebrities. So you'll see every single one of them. I gave them a PPCM chain, swag, bracelet. You know, I'm unprofessional. It was unprofessional to do, but
but you have to.
I know. You have to do it. I felt like, I'm compelled. Yes, I'm a location manager, but I survived death. And I realized I shouldn't be working right now that much on set, because I need to do this. This is what I felt like I needed to do. And I'm the type of person that when I commit to something, I commit, so
I'm the same way.
yeah. So I do. I tell everybody and anybody. I tell the person that I'm talking to by getting my medication. It's to, at my where I get my medication. I tell, anybody who I talk to over the phone, at the bank, receptionist, I mean, everybody. And it's good that I did that, because the nonprofit got supported, with funds, because I put it out there. Yeah. And so, I realized that, you never know who's going to be that one person that's going to be the earth angel,
Yeah, absolutely.
And, we're very, very grateful. So it's like, we don't have to feel like, I'm trying to get money out of, people from Facebook for birthday donations. If they want to choose, the ocean, or I don't know, the American Heart Association, that's known about PPCM for over 20 years, then go for it. Right. But, so I rely on the sources that can actually want to help, because there's people that just don't care, and there's the people that do, and not everybody's going to like this. Not everybody's going to want to be supportive to women and our pregnancy movement that we're trying to develop and be part of. So there is real change within women's health worth.
Yeah. And you're going to find a lot more resistance than you are acceptance. And
Absolutely.
You have to be a strong enough person and believe enough in the cause to push past that, and know that for every one person that's going to listen to you, there's going to be 10 that aren't, or that the information is going to go in one ear and out the other. But that has to be enough for you. That one person that does listen, that does take that knowledge with them, has to be enough for you to keep going.
Yeah. And there was something very profound that happened 3 years ago. I just felt like nobody was listening to me. And I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And I'm like, one day I was just hysterical crying. I'm like, I'm just falling on deaf ears. Nobody cares. So why am I doing this? No one cares. And then randomly that day, I got a message from a mother that said, thank you. I remembered your post, and my daughter has peripartum cardiomyopathy and has been diagnosed because I had to go back into your feed. I had to go to your website, but you saved my daughter's life and my grandson. It was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And here I'm thinking nobody's listening, but then that message came to me. Mm-hmm. So there are people watching, they just don't comment. They just don't
Yeah.
say anything, but that doesn't mean that they're not listening. So I had to like, my perception and my internalization had to like say, okay, 1 million are not listening, but that one did, and it saved her, and it saved it. So yeah, I pushed through it, and I'm still pushing through it. I don't get very much support, and that's fine. But I know that it will save lives. I know that it will save the ones that need to be saved.
Yeah.
And, you know, just keep on keeping on, you know.
Yeah, that one person that you saved makes years of struggle worth it.
Absolutely. And that's how I got to move past all of those, like, okay, not care, build up that wall that, like, if people think that I'm too much, well, maybe they're just not enough. If I'm talking too much, well, maybe they need to listen more, you know? Yeah. So I don't care, you know, I have less care of what others think, and I care more about that one that can be saved.
Absolutely. And that's what you have to focus on. And it's so easy.
Quality over quantity.
Of that. Yeah. It's so easy to lose sight of that because you're just getting pushed down constantly, or being told to shut up, or being told that people don't care, and being shown that people don't care.
Right.
And it's a lot of, it's a lot about your self-esteem and your motivation and your wherewithal to keep going. And it says a lot about you as a person and us as survivors, that we have already been through this horrible, horrific time in our lives, and we are willing to bring it up again and again and again. It's not easy
it's reliving our worst fears and nightmare over and over and over again.
Yes. I mean, many women that have our condition have pretty severe post-traumatic stress disorder from it. I know I'm one of those people. And
I had to go on when my mom, my heart surgery was February 14th, 2018. And my mom it was just so hard for her to watch me go through all that and know my entire pregnancy, Lindsay, something's not right, to the point where she got walking pneumonia. And then September 4th, 2018, I was by her bedside. I lived, she died. So I blame PPCM. And, you know, it's something that I needed to overcome, like you were talking about, not just with this disease, but like mentally. Like we have to know how to meet ourselves at our level of depression, grieving, know when to allow ourselves to grieve, but then also knowing, okay, enough's enough. You've grieved enough. You know, now it's time to get a hold of yourself. And so, you know, there's a lot of awareness that comes into play with having this disease and recovery mentally. And, you know, PPCM didn't really take me down, but losing my mom from this disease and the guilt and like just awful. It's just sad. It's a sad, horrible, preventable disease. And I cannot stop moving forward with this until there's actual real change.
Absolutely.
And the only thing that I could think of is I got to prove it somehow. And this is the only way in modern times, this is the only way to prove it, is to just keep talking about it until something is done, until the right person hears it. You know, it should have been Beyonce. She dropped the ball. It should have been Jessica Simpson. She had pregnant. She definitely had it. She dropped the ball. It should have been Sierra Williams. She had it. She dropped the ball. Kim Kardashian, she was pretty swollen and she had complications majorly. Yeah. She dropped the ball. What will it take for a woman that has, you know, power to change history for all women? Who
Right.
will that person be? Will it be
Right.
Barbara Streisand? You know, I mean, I have a Zoom interview. Hopefully she gives a special message, like she did for Women's Heart awareness, which I want to say to her that, you know, PPCM is responsible for 1 in 20 heart transplants from women in the United States when it's all preventable.
I didn't even know that.
I just posted up yesterday a woman, 35 years old. She had heart failure after giving birth to her child. Now she's on a transplant list.
Mm-hmm.
She's part of the 1 of 20 that PPCM is responsible for heart transplants in the United States. That is unacceptable because it's all preventable.
Absolutely.
That is why we are talking today.
Yeah.
To even just talk about that. I mean, people don't know this.
Right.
PPCM is solely responsible, but PPCM is completely preventable. So why, you know, they want to go artificial intelligence. Why don't they just start with the NT-proBNP simple blood test that costs $15 out of pocket before you go in creating like something that it's appalling.
It could be so simple. It should be so simple.
It's so simple, stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the resistance.
I actually said that to a doula recently. There was another doula pregnancy specialist, and if you look on my page, I chopped her head off, but she had fluid going up to her legs and to her knee, and I wanted to inform her. She didn't want to be informed. She told me to fuck off her wall. I was okay. I had another woman say that, you know, I was like, listen, anybody who's going to defend a pregnancy specialist with a pregnancy-induced complication that is not interested in being informed of something preventable, I said, this is where the problem lies. You are the wheelhouse. 100%. And so I said, she's stupid. She's ignorant. And so somebody said, oh, I thought you were a professional until you called her stupid. I said, no, it's so simple, stupid. It's a simple blood test that costs less than $15. She's suffering. She's struggling. And she doesn't have to. So
the least people can do is listen. If you then hear that knowledge and don't want to do something about it for yourself, that's on you. The least you can do is listen to somebody who's just trying to help.
Yeah. And I was so, my approach, they were like, your approach. My approach was kind. Mm-hmm. How do you approach something that's not joyful at a joyful time? It's not to scare, it's to be aware. And, you know, when I used every approach, I said, approach, that's what they do. They say, if you say it this way, then you're spam. If you say it that way, then you're ruining a joyful moment. If you say it this way, then you know, you just want attention. I mean, there's no right approach. I mean, and
it needs to be much more about what's being said instead of the way it's being said.
Exactly. And I don't know when education all of a sudden became fearful and not educational and not informative. You know, education should be, you know, especially when it's something preventable and scary, it should be informative, not education should not be feared about. And so the wheelhouse of doulas and midwives and birth keepers now is what they call themselves. And like the pregnancy specialist, whatever that freaking means. I never know what that means. I could be a pregnancy specialist. I mean, whatever. So it's like you have all these women that live, breathe, and sleep newborns. Don't they know that this can actually save a newborn from baby loss? Right. They don't care. They don't want to be informed. No. They don't bring it up. It's not talked about it. They really, it's mind-boggling how no woman other than ones that suffer till death or almost to death are pleading for people to listen.
Yeah.
And I really wonder how that woman's doing. If you go on my Facebook page and you go down a few weeks, but you'll see a woman she was standing on a rock. And I had to chop it off, but because they got mad at me that she wasn't even showing her face. She was standing like this with her arms out. Her head was back. You couldn't even see her face. And it was a a rock with the beautiful ocean behind her. But then you look at her feet and you look at how swollen it is. And it'd be one thing if it was just her feet or her ankles that were swollen. The fluid you can actually see going up into her knee. You could see it.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
and that's how
the reason why your head is back is because you don't want people to see how fat your face is because you're swollen, because you're having heart failure.
Yeah, that's how
you're
I was
hiding it.
Immediately after the delivery of my son. And I didn't know any better. I thought it was because I just gave birth. But, my cardiologist now wholeheartedly believes that, this is when this started. You may not have felt other physical symptoms until a couple of weeks later, but we do believe that that's it. It started during delivery, and I just didn't know any better. And so it's making people know better. It's educating women so that
I just interviewed a woman yesterday who said she had a beautiful pregnancy. Nothing was wrong with her. Everything was fine. She had a C-section. And as she's breastfeeding her baby 2 months after giving birth, she had cardiac arrest and her husband was giving her CPR.
Ugh.
No signs, no symptoms. That's why the blood test is so important.
Absolutely.
That's why the EKG is so important, because you can't see from the outside. We don't know. We need to be tested. I mean, don't they get that? Isn't there that?
As far as I knew, and as far as my OBGYN and I delivered with a midwife, as far as my OBGYN and my midwife knew, my pregnancy was as healthy as possible.
Healthy.
Yeah. I didn't have complications. I didn't have symptoms, but very clearly it started showing itself and rearing its ugly head after I delivered.
Which is why the test needs to be mandatory.
Absolutely.
We need to raise the standard screening, labs, and testings for all pregnancies.
Absolutely. Period. It should be a requirement before you're discharged from the hospital, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, this is a young, healthy woman disease. You're healthy before because it's a pregnancy-induced complication. The heart is suffocated. It's a blood and fluid disease.
Yeah.
And that blood and fluid does cause cancer and dementia. And if anybody thinks that they can get out of this life without knowing their BNP test and not getting any of those diseases, then they must, I don't know. I mean, honestly, they're not
blissful ignorance.
It's almost like they don't believe that they're little specks in the universe. They believe that they are the universe, if they actually believe that. Because the BNP test, if you were to research and fill in the blanks, does the BNP determine, fill in the blanks, colon cancer? I mean, everything. I mean, to know that there's a prevention with early diagnosis and there possibly doesn't need to be child cancer, and they've known about this for decades, and the Cancer Association, American, and then people still give and donate to them with them withholding this very important educational information of a simple blood test. Not acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to talk about it either.
There's that saying, what people don't know can't hurt them. And in this instance, that is so wrong. That could not be from the truth.
I have a Post-it. I think my husband took it down. I have a Post-it and I said, it's funny you just said that. I have a Post-it and I said, what we don't know can hurt us. And I wrote that. I stuck it on the desk over there, because people always say, what we don't know, what we do know, can make a life difference, but also what we don't know can kill us.
Absolutely.
We didn't know about the BNP test. We didn't know that pregnancy can make us handicapped.
Yeah.
As what it says on
I had no idea of the magnitude of maternal mortality, especially in the United States being such a developed country. I had no idea about any of that.
We stick out.
It was too late. Yeah.
I'm already they're already done. So if anybody tries to, it's done. I've already interviewed women from all over the world. And then women in the US, they don't pay for healthcare. It's free.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They don't pay for life vests. We pay $5,000 for 3 months. They can't even own it. They have to rent it.
Right.
Entrapment. They don't have insurance. Entrapment insurance. We have. They have free healthcare. Women who are diagnosed in America are over 150 to two. Mine was over $288,000. But
wow.
I had the best insurance money can't buy because I have motion picture pension and health plan, and I'm a Teamster. So, I'm in 4 unions. I have great insurance. But I asked a woman the other day, so what was your bill? I said, this woman from Canada, she has free health care. What did you have to pay? She says, oh, my son just turned 8. We just got out of debt. Wow. American women are severely defeated with this disease. We are not diagnosed in gynecology. They are diagnosed in gynecology because they have the SFLT1 and the PIGF, the kit and the instruments available in gynecology. Gynecology diagnoses the woman. The woman then they go to the cardiologist, and then they're saved during pregnancy. Women in America are being diagnosed at a life threat in the ER.
Yeah.
After giving birth.
Right.
That's the difference between American women that have to pay up the wazoo, that doesn't even have a gynecologist. Oh, and FDA will not approve the SFLT1 and the PIGF in America, and maybe in 2023. I already called the companies. And Dr. James Fett keeps saying, no, he keeps arguing with me. How? I'm trying to get it. And he's like, I'm sorry you're frustrated. I'm like, I'm not frustrated. I am I don't understand.
Yeah.
How you're saying that that we have it, that people are being diagnosed with it. But then when I call the hospitals, they say that their blood lab does not provide that instrument and kit.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm told. I was told that by Memorial Hospital in Bakersfield. I was told that at Kern Hospital. I was told that at Cedars-Sinai. I was told that in El Paso, Texas. I called for a woman that's in Georgia. I mean, I'm out there. I'm not I know you say that it's out there, but where?
Yeah.
Because if the medical community is saying they don't have it available in their labs, and then the company is saying that FDA has not approved it, then where?
Yeah.
So what I've discovered is that American women have been completely defeated, and their only sure treatment is self-advocacy and banking on a freaking miracle that anybody knows about this disease and can point a woman in the right direction to get the actual proper care and awareness of the preventions, because it's the magnesium drip, it's the Cori, beta blocker, it's the, there are things that can be applied for treatment, but nobody has the awareness of this disease to even know that there's, what do we do? We've never had, and it's we have to base this on a global standpoint. They say every 3 minutes, a young, healthy woman dies of childbirth after childbirth. Yeah. But we can't, as America, we have to base our statistics outside of America because we don't have a diagnosis to even give the statistics in gynecology. So what statistics are they basing it off of? Right. Cardiology? You can't do that. It's appalling. And how do we even? They don't say peripartum cardiomyopathy. She died after childbirth. That's all they say. So
pregnancy and labor complications. Yeah.
In America, not in the UK, not in Great Britain. No. Yeah. They're light years ahead of us. And they don't have to pay for any health care. They get mental health care. They get everything health care and everything available to them. And they are less defeated, but still very sad that they have PPCM. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. And I'm grateful that the UK some don't have awareness, some do. I'm great. And, you know, that Canada, you know, that they're very lucky that they have, you know, diagnosis in gynecology and they don't have to pay for healthcare, but they're not blessed with other things. So it's like, you know, all we want for women is to have a simple blood test available. We don't want to have to self-advocate. We want it to be mandatory. We don't have to want to educate the medical community. We want them to be smarter than us because we're going to them and we're paying them. Yeah. So if there is such a highlighted of lack of in America, lack of awareness in gynecology, lack of awareness in cardiology, lack of awareness between every individual who's pregnant, then it's almost as if like this pregnancy movement that we are trying to develop, because it's not developed yet.
Yeah.
We're getting there. I would hope that this time next year, when you and I maybe talk and do a follow up with your baby, because I want to do another interview to see how this pregnancy went for you, in comparison, and like talk about, you know, the difference in comparison, because you are a study. I'm not having another baby, so we can only learn from as proof that you were in fact diagnosed peripartum cardiomyopathy with your first baby, and how was it your second pregnancy? And I think that the more development that we learn through women and our wellness with the awareness, is what we are, which is basically the first, I guess, level of starting this movement. It's like the first, it's like the frame. Like if we were in a picture frame, you know, it's like the outline. What we need to, where do we start?
Right, you know? The basics that we need to accomplish in order to make change.
Absolutely, and it's going to take. As we are the study and we are stepping up, it might take years, or it could take, it can happen overnight, you know, like Ashton Kutcher, he got that 70s show. Next thing you know, he was famous, you know, it can happen like that, you know, like where, you know, it just takes off. So yeah, I mean, we'll definitely keep in touch, and hopefully, you know, somebody listens to this and really identifies with you and with what we're trying to create here and why we're talking. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you for doing
my whole heart. Thank you.
It's so important. And I know how difficult it is. And I'm there to support you because I know how important that is. So
we need 4,000 watch time. Please make a comment on Tracy Dominguez's interview, the first interview.
Absolutely.
I know never to wear all black.
Friends and family, you need to watch this. Yeah.
It's. I've learned I can't wear all black. I look like a big blob. I do have a body.
I saw your comments about that.
I'm like, what the and then I was that day I got my period. I was swollen. I'm like, I do not look like me at all. And I was like, I don't want to show this, but I have to.
Right.
So, you know, hopefully people won't be like, oh, I don't want to watch a big blob, but at the same time, it's not about what
what you look like. It's about what you're saying.
It's about what I'm saying. And it's about Tracy's beautiful daughter, who's 23 years old, and her grandson that did not make it.
Right.
She was diagnosed after her times of death. And, you know, she was healthy. And so Tracy, you know, had to get her diploma. You know, she was a smart, successful, beautiful person. And she was just never treated, never diagnosed until ever. And so yeah, like if we need I need 4,000 watched hours in order for Netflix, you know,
To pick it up.
to pick it up and to take it seriously. Are people watching it? Do people care? You know, they have to see the watch time. So far, we have enough watch time where we have more than a small theater would have watched in a month. So we're doing really, really well.
Good.
But I want to do exceptional.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to do very well. I want to do exceptionally well.
Absolutely.
So every interview, I think, you know, because people are like, oh, what is, you know, the painful truth about? And I'm like, interviewing one person every time. And that's what it is. Because it's life-changing, like you say, and it's scary, and it is the painful truth.
Yeah.
Because it is preventable.
Absolutely.
So when people are like, oh, what's it about? I'm like, it's about PPCM. It's about what women go through. It's about how we're living today, coping with what happened yesterday, you know, and moving forward like normal. And like that word to me, normal, does not exist to me anymore. Like, what is normal?
There's no such thing.
There's no such thing. Exactly. I mean, after going through something like this, I'm lucky that I'm, you know, able to, you know, be able to express myself to the point where I'm able to help somebody else. And
we're very lucky to have that chance as survivors.
Absolutely. And you're not alone, because I'll tell you, I felt that and realized that this is so common. Like everything that you feel, everything that you're going through, 1 out of 4 women get, and that statistics is based on global. So I believe it's a lot more. So when you see 4 girls standing there, and I look at, you know, I was, the other day I was watching my son, and there was 2 little girls walking in front of us, and there was other girls like, you know, at school and stuff. And I'm like, you know, I think about that. Okay, there's 4 girls right there. Which one is going to be PPCM? You know, and they're like 7, 6 years old, you know, they're like little boo-boos, but like that's where my head goes.
Because those are heavy thoughts to have.
Yeah. You know, and so I, you know, I don't think normally anymore. You know, I think like, I wonder what those little girls' BNP is, and then, and can they compare it to when they get their period? You know, like, is there a difference between a BNP and the fact that, you know, child cancer can be prevented with early diagnosis with the BNP? I always think, you know, we all have blood and fluid, you know, like how could we not know that number for even our children? Yeah. You know, like it's just something that I need to know about with my son. I want to know his BNP. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is something that I thought about a lot earlier on in this pregnancy. So I have my 3-year-old son, my heart baby, and then I'm carrying a boy now as well. And it's a bit of a relief to know that I'm not having a girl, because that was something that I really worried about constantly in early pregnancy was, if this is a girl, is she going to be able to have kids? Is she going to feel comfortable even trying to have kids after knowing what I've been through and what the possibilities are? And so, you know, that was more fear on top of the fear that I already had. And so it is something that is constant, and you think about in every person that you look at and every person that you talk to. And my perception and how I internalize things, when I look at something, like, you know, you say, oh, you can look up at the sky and, you know, I see an elephant and you see, you know, a turtle or something like that. But this is like really looking at something in a completely different, in a completely different shape and form. And I'm
congratulations on having a little boy. I mean, they are like little blessings. And yes, I would feel the same way as you. 100%. Because I don't look at a boy and feel that. I look at the girl and feel that.
Yeah.
You know, I even tell my son's best friend, Riley, his sister, Eden, and I tell her, and I talk to her like I'm talking to you, you know, just as from woman to woman. And I say from woman to young lady, you always have to use your voice, and, you know, and you need to know your BNP, and you need to know. I mean, I talk to her, you know, about it, but I also put it in a way where, you know, it's just something that women always need to do to prevent their health, and awareness is what, you know, as women, we should always know our body. Right. And so I have a different approach I do with children than I do with adults, but I think it's very, yes, but I think that it's very important to educate the young with this, because education is the most important knowledge that we can have, because knowledge is power, in order to, you know, have it. And I think that if you and I were educated at a young age, I think that this could have prevented a lot of those fears and worries. That being diagnosed shouldn't be fearful. It should be a blessing, because it can be prevented.
And when you're talking to kids or you're talking to young adults, you're talking to the next generation of scientists and the next generation of doctors, and you're putting that seed in their mind that is then going to grow and cause them to say, okay, I need to be the one who makes this change. I need to be the one to make sure that this doesn't happen to women anymore.
Absolutely. And that's why I always say, you know, with Liam wears his PPCM mask. We sell masks, and today I dropped off Liam at school, and the woman who was grabbing him, she yesterday as well, I just changed his schools, and she said, oh, what's PPCM? And then he says, PPCM Fund is a woman maternal, and he was starting to say it, and he was doing it. He was actually, because he knows exactly what to say. And she said, oh, I said, it's his nonprofit, my son's nonprofit. I said, I'm just the muse, I'm the vessel. I said, you know, but we do have a nonprofit, and, you know, that's what. And she said, my sister had peripartum cardiomyopathy.
Wow. And
had heart failure. And she was like, I can't believe you just said this just now. I can't, you know, and she was like blown away. She's like, I'm going to look up your nonprofit, you know, as soon as I get to my desk. And she said, she works at the office there. And she says, I can't believe you just said that. She says, my sister. Yeah. And she says, this is wonderful that you're spreading the awareness. And so that's how common it is.
Right.
That somebody who opened up the door to get my son out for him to go to his elementary school, you know, and that her sister.
Yeah.
That's how common. And so when someone says, oh, it's just rare, they can't say that it's rare, because there's no diagnosis. The diagnosis is rare, not
we
the
don't
disease.
Even really know. Yeah.
So it's been one of these interesting moments that when I feel like, okay, I'm obligated, this needs to happen, you know, we're going to do this.
For you on, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to ever give up.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to, you know, spread the awareness with PPCM, with the flyers, with, you know, they're downloadable. You can download them. If, you know, whatever it is that you feel you need to address, you know, new information, you know, I believe there needs to be more patch testing awareness, scar tissue prevention. I mean, there's so much that we learn to educate. So if you stumble upon anything that you think, oh, this is interesting, you know, include that. And I'll even, you know, we'll put it up on the website and have it as like a, you know, a quote or educated by, you know, and you provide the information because again, we are the educators.
Right. It's up to us.
Not the medical community.
Yeah.
So, like I said, you're gonna be, you know, another mommy to another baby. So I hope and pray that this pregnancy is like beyond perfect. And then, you know, and then people can really tell after our next interview that that every pregnancy is different. And just because you're PPC on your first, it's a completely different placenta growth. Because that's all it is. It's the way that the placenta grows. Yeah. So just because you have PPCM prior does not mean that you're going to have it this time at all. It's a totally different growth.
Yeah.
So,
and I wouldn't have gone through with another pregnancy had I not gotten the confidence from my doctor, from my cardiologist, and my high risk OB. You know, they said, we think you're the perfect candidate to go through another pregnancy and to be one to prove that it can happen. This doesn't have to be yet another devastating part of the disease where you're told that you can't have any more children, which happens to so many women who go to doctors that are just uneducated in the condition. It doesn't have to be the end of everything.
A doom. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where I think that what you just said is very profound because you feel comfortable with your medical care and treatment, that you feel comfortable, you know, going through this pregnancy and not having people fear you out of not. And that shows that the medical community they could still do a lot of, you know, power.
Yeah. The capability is there. You just have to find the right person who will listen.
But if everything was mandatory and everybody was educated on this, then it would apply. So
yeah, it shouldn't be as difficult as it is. It shouldn't be difficult at all to find a doctor who's going to take you seriously and going to listen and going to make you feel comfortable. That should be every doctor. But
I mean, that's why they go into practice. I mean, I love what I do. I love being a filmmaker. I love doing locations for filming. I just think it's a cool job. I enjoy it. You know, I would never do something that I wouldn't want to do. And doctors choose that profession because that's what they want to do. So it's like, here's something that is not new, because women have been giving birth since the beginning of time. This is new information.
Yeah.
But it's not new.
Right.
And so I don't know what it will take. Like I said, I think it will take a celebrity, but there's been so many that could have stepped up. At the time, Kevin Hart, his wife was giving birth when I was working on that show. She was pregnant. And, you know, if he cared at all about the mutation gene that's in African American women that is all prevented with a simple blood test, and he doesn't know that, and here his wife, I mean, the risk of having this information and not supporting it and knowing how needed it is, you know, the men suffer just as much. And I said that to Kevin Hart. I said, you know, men suffer more sometimes the woman. Watching the disease is sometimes worse than actually going through it, you know, the fear. And then, you know, I mean, my husband, I was in a coma. I couldn't even hold my baby. I couldn't feed him. I couldn't bottle feed him. I mean, that was robbed from me, you know? And it's like, he had to be the mom and feed my baby, our baby. But he came out of me and I died, you know, and I couldn't even, it was awful. And so the men suffer just as much. And I think that's why I was really hoping that Kevin Hart would have stepped up.
Right.
Drop all ego aside.
Yeah.
And do it for women, for all Black women. I mean, they do have the highest death rate.
Absolutely. I mean, that community is so harshly impacted by, all maternal mortality causes, but especially PPCM. You look at the difference in rates between Caucasian women or Hispanic women and African Americans, and it's astronomical, the difference.
It's shocking.
Horrendous. Yes, it is. It really is.
Because there's a mutation gene and there's a simple blood test, there's a different type of blood test. And it's like, I don't know what it would take. I mean, and unfortunately it will take somebody to die.
Right.
And hopefully we can change that. And we are.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing this. I mean, it's a hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing to keep doing when you meet so much resistance, but it makes all the difference for some people. So
yes, I am a believer. I really am. I believe in women's rights.
Yeah.
And so I will keep persevering. I have another interview in time is it? It's 12:52. I have another interview in 10 minutes. So yeah, it's keep on keeping on. And every week we will do some interviews. I vent because I'm angry, at a press, or I'm this or I'm that. So I have feelings too, about this, which is, you never know what you're going to get out of me that day.
Sure.
I'm still a Jersey girl, even though I live in California.
Yeah.
Take the girl out of Jersey, but you can't take the Jersey out of the girl. And so,
understandable.
and I might say something that might, as me venting as a person, I know that I'm going to probably, people are going to say they hate it or they love it, or, everyone's a critic, but
and you know what? Those are the people who are never going to listen anyways. So
that's how there was this one woman I posted on our peripartum cardiomyopathy group site, and she said something really mean. And she's like, I'm not going to share my story and I'm not part of this, but, blah, blah, blah. And she said something so mean that I just was like, okay, you're blocked. So I've been just like blocking people, like if I don't like their tone to me and I don't like, they're not supportive, then I just block them. I probably blocked about.
You're here to serve a purpose, and you are serving that purpose. And there's always going to be people that don't want to listen. And those aren't the people that you're talking to. So you have no need for them. Yeah.
So I just blocked. I think I blocked like easily over 30 people last week. And I only blocked one person this week.
That's good. Progress.
Making progress.
Yeah.
But yes, it's at this point, it's like you said, it's about our future. It's about our future girls. It's about our future boys that marry that girl someday.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So thank you. And watch on YouTube or Amazon. I believe it's on as well. And it's on iHeartRadio, Spotify. What is it? iHeart, Spotify, Roku. It's out there. I mean, so if people can't watch it, they can listen.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
So spread the word, and thank you. Even if you have it in the background, you're not watching it, you just need 4,000 watch hours.
Yeah.
It's hard, but it shouldn't be that hard.
Yes.
Hopefully.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much and have a
Thank you.
lovely day.
You
Eat
too.
something very special for that baby.
Will do. I have chips and queso waiting for me on the counter. So
There you go. Do it up.
thanks so much.
You're so welcome. Have a lovely day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us and listening to the PPCM Fund podcast. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. PPCM's Painful Truth is made possible through the generous support of donors like you. Help us spread the awareness by donating at ppcmfund.com or click the link below to become a member through Ko-fi. Have a great day.